Colm Brockett. My first thought when I was listening to this speech, right, was in Toastmasters rules, a speech doesn't start until he says his first word. Is all this burger chewing part of the speech? Have the timer started counting this yet? And really, as I went on as well, what love, genuine love. You could hear it in his words, but you could see it most in the fact that he willingly ate cold burger. So a great speech. Structure of this speech. The structure of the speech, we had a lot of structure in it. We had that catchy visual at the beginning. We had a history lesson on the formation of the company. We had a bit of advocacy, comparison aspects, some stories from his childhood. There was a lot of structure in there. And by and large, I think the structure worked very well, actually. I think the running order was nice. There were a couple of little blips. The section about Japan, I'm not sure really the Japan menus. I don't really know what value that added. But generally, it took us really quite through and covered a lot of ground in the time that was covered. It's quite a short speech to cover that much ground. And it had a lot of powerful advocacy in the middle of it. So I think the structure really is something that I would call out as being quite positive of this speech, and something that really made it an enjoyable one to listen to. Language is another aspect I just want to touch on. I've never heard someone talk so lovingly about burgers. It was just lovely to listen to. You know, even words like greasy spoon suddenly sounded like nice drizzling oil rather than fat. Again, there are a couple of wee areas that could have been tweaked. He talked about how they turned a greasy spoon into a multinational company. There could have been a greasy spoon into a global superstar, or something a bit more punchy. Some other aspects of the language I liked, he used a couple of triads. Simply don't, you don't have to, you don't have to, you don't have to. There was a very nice one I liked where he lost track of his speech and said, "You're probably wondering what I'm going to say next." Because he was wondering what he was going to say next. And if he had remembered, it would have been great. But he didn't, but it was still really nicely done. Another one I thought was great, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, was when he said, "Look, McDonald's is part of a healthy, balanced diet. You know, I only eat there at least once a week." You know, just a flip in the middle. You don't even notice that he's actually using two wrong types against each other. So I like that. In terms of recommendations, the personal story. So about halfway through the speech, he switched and he said, "Well, like a lot of kids, I love McDonald's," and then he seemed to say, "I fell out of love." Now, maybe I misunderstood it, but I got a bit lost, because I was waiting for the melodramatic moment when he realized McDonald's was crap. But he didn't realize it. He just kept talking about how I loved it, the Happy Meal, and then the burgers, and the fries, and the burgers, man! It's fucking great! So I got a bit lost there. My next recommendation is that this was an advocacy piece. It was clear. I'm an advocate for McDonald's. And it didn't win me over. It didn't. You know, there wasn't really enough. He talked about fat content, and he chucked a load of numbers and facts in, but not really enough to sway us. But that may not be his fault. It could just be that most of us have eaten McDonald's. And we know, no matter what nice words he says, it's rubbish. Right? As the last point, I'd like to say it was a cracking speech to watch, and the humour was great. My refined taste, moving to a Big Mac from a quarter pound, just cracking. So excellent speech. Thanks very much.